Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Clare Morley, the Chief Executive of RISE, which is the active partnership that covers Northumberland and Tyne and Wear, and I am delighted to be joined today by Kim McGuinness. Hello, Kim.
Hi.
Now, Kim has been the Police and Crime Commissioner for Northumbria Police since July last year, and she was previously the Executive Member for Culture, Sport and Public Health at Newcastle City Council, so as well as being a Labour member in the city. It's great to have you here today, Kim. Thank you for joining me. First of all, I trust that you're keeping well through these interesting times that we're going through.
Yes, we've been well in our house. Everybody's healthy and happy, and just trying to find new ways of doing things like this.
Good. Yeah, the Zoom calls and the Teams calls are all the rage at the moment, aren't they?
Certainly are, yeah. And I think, to be honest, I don't think there'll be a massive end to it. I think that's how we'll keep going. But yeah, hopefully you're well as well.
Yeah, all good at this end. Very busy, and this week with our launch has been fantastic. But it's good to kind of round it off with you. So just to give everyone a little bit of background, I was really keen for Kim to be able to speak to us during our virtual launch event, as we've been working with several parts of the police and criminal justice sector over recent months. And it's a really interesting area of work for us here at RISE because we feel there's quite a lot of connectivity between the benefits of sport and physical activity and the many areas of policing and justice, including in particular youth offending. So that was the main reason for really wanting to have Kim on the call today. But I appreciate that many of you might not fully understand what the role of the Police and Crime Commissioner is. So I wanted to start off, Kim, just by making sure everyone knows what the role of the PCC is. I'm sure they've heard of it, but might not fully understand its function. So could you just briefly describe the role of the PCC generally?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's probably a couple of ways to describe it. I think, there's what you would get from a government website that tells you that I'm here to hold the police to account, so to make sure that they're delivering everything that they should be and they're doing that fairly and safely and without fear or favour. I'm here to manage the money, so to manage the money that comes down from government and set and sign off the budget, and that includes the police and crime precept. I'm here to commission all of the victim services. So if you're a victim of crime, obviously that's really, really important to you and it's a really difficult time and you might need support. And so I commission through my office all of those services that are there for people, and to set the police and crime plan, which is there to make sure that the voices of the people of Northumbria are reflected in the activities of the police. And so that's kind of it in a nutshell. But I also think it's really important that link between the Police and Crime Commissioner and the public is really strong. I listen to the public, I understand what they want and need. I talk to community groups and individuals and share what I hear with the force. And I think also it's really important to say that I'm here to make sure that crime is reducing in our area, to make sure that everybody is having the best experience, because I think this is the best place to live anywhere in the country. I think we're really lucky, and that part of your life should be reflected in what the force does. And I think finally, I have a really big part in lobbying government to make sure that we get everything we need in our area into our police force, the funding, the resources, so that our police force can be as effective as possible. I think sometimes as well, it's my job to champion the role of the police officers because they do a cracking job for us in our region and we have to recognise that. So I guess that's it in a nutshell, and there's loads of other bits and bobs on the outside, but I think that's probably a really good overview.
Fantastic, thank you. That's really useful context, and it is a really broad area of work, as you've described. And I agree, it is a great region to live in. I moved back here just last year, having been away in the northwest for 13 years. So it's good to come back to the northeast. It's a great place to live.
Oh yeah, I mean, I lived away for 5 years when I was younger, in the south, and well, largely in the south, but also in York, and absolutely lovely places, really enjoyed it, but I was just desperate to come back all the time because I just think we've got everything here. We've got coast, the countryside, the cities. It's just fab.
Absolutely. You mentioned in what you just explained that we have a police and crime plan for Northumbria, and I understand that we're currently in the last year of that plan that was introduced by your predecessor, Dame Vera Baird. Now, a year into your role, what are your reflections on how the plan is working towards delivering the best policing in our region?
So I think that plan it's been a great plan. I think that the force have done really well delivering it, and I think that it's had some great outcomes. There's been some really great work, particularly with women and girls and domestic and sexual violence, and I'm really, really pleased that we've been able to continue that the first year into the role. But of course, having stood for election, I also had a manifesto, and I was really keen to look at the relationship between health and crime, and deprivation and crime. And so we've also delivered the Violence Reduction Unit, which I know we're going to talk about. I'm sure we're going to talk about later because we've been doing some good work together. And I've wanted to do that as well as the plan as it stood. I think that these things are something you have to refresh. And very shortly, we'll be moving into a new police and crime plan. And the way that I'll consult with that is to go as broad and wide as I can. I want to speak to as many people in Northumbria as possible in the way that suits them. So whether that's online, face-to-face, whether it's at an event, whether it's a telephone call, with people who will work with me to gather information on what people really want to see. And so I want it to be that real communicative effort with residents so that we know that the next plan is reflective both of its time, because of course we are now 4 years on from that last one, but then also reflective of what people really want.
Yeah, fantastic. So in terms of when you'd be looking to refresh that plan, is there a timescale on that yet? So is there a way people can get in touch now, or are we going to have to wait a few more months before you're going to launch that kind of consultation process?
Probably weeks rather than months, but we will keep in touch, and we will be asking your service users as well as many others who we work with through our partnerships and residents to participate. So hopefully you won't be able to avoid it.
Fantastic. We'll keep an eye out for it. Now you mentioned that the violence reduction unit that you've introduced into your office, and I understand that's taking a public health approach to your strategy around reducing violence in the region. And the message seems to be really clear. You know, if we can improve lives, we can prevent crime. And that very much resonates with our kind of why we're here as an organisation, because we're trying to use physical activity to improve lives. How do you feel that sport and physical activity can play a part in supporting your public health approach and achieving better outcomes for communities?
You're absolutely right. It is as simple as that. I think that if we can improve people's lives, give them the best start in life, make sure that they're happy and healthy, make sure that they have access to employment, good housing, food, then they're much less likely to commit crime. And there's a real link between deprivation and health inequality and crime. And that's what we're trying to introduce. That's what we're trying to work with to reduce crime. I think you talk about the role of sport, and I don't think that can be underestimated at all. I think whether you are a spectator and you've got more opportunity to see live sport or get involved in live sport, or whether you want to get out there and be active and take part in either a team sport or an individual sport and have the chance to excel and have a healthy body and a healthy mind, I think that's really, really fundamental to taking the public health approach. And definitely through the sort of early infancy of the violence reduction unit, the work that we've done with organisations like yourselves, with the football foundations, with boxing clubs, with the Eagles, Newcastle Eagles and Newcastle Falcons, it pays real dividends, because it gives young people particularly, but people more broadly, access to something that they might not have had access before. And I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, and I think we've, living through lockdown at the moment, I think we've all recognised the value of being able to get outside and do activity. And I think, I'm hoping people will realise what they've kind of missed and put more value on the opportunities that they get to take part in sports or go for a walk or a bike ride or whatever it may be, because we've had that taken away from us to a certain degree. And it would be great to see people really value those activities when we come out of lockdown fully.
Definitely. I mean, a sport and physical activity, it's a real equaliser, because your background doesn't have anything to do with your ability. And I think that is so fundamental to what we're trying to achieve. And so by giving everybody access or by trying to give everybody access to it, I think that really speaks to what we're trying to deliver. I think you're right, during lockdown, kind of seeing people, more likely to be out with the dog or going for a run or a walk or getting on their bike for the first time in ages, it's been fab. And hopefully those people who have been doing it for the first time during lockdown because it's their time outside the house will keep doing it because it is so good for you physically and mentally.
That's it, absolutely vital for physical and mental well-being. And just to pick up on the point around taking part in sport, I think as an organisation we're really keen that not only do we support people to be active themselves, but actually to be involved in everything that goes around that. And I think a key thing that will link with the violence reduction work in particular is about giving young people opportunities to take leadership roles, for example, opportunities to take groups, to do coaching, to enable them to utilise all the other parts of sport, which isn't just about taking part directly as a participant, and help them in their development, their education and their employability.
It's such a big opportunity for skill building. If you think about the organisation that goes into even a single football match, there's so much going on around that. The coaching, the refereeing, the management of the team, the kits, all of that is a huge part of getting that match to take place on that pitch that day. It's not just about the 90 minutes. And so I think you are right, encouraging young people to get involved in the organisation of sport and to take those skills that they can gain from that is another really good opportunity. And I think it's really important to champion that, because sometimes people just think, oh, well, football, I don't really want to get involved in that. But you can enjoy the game without playing it. I enjoy rugby. I definitely don't play
it. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I used to do mini rugby when I was little, but I haven't done it for a while. But it's still good to be involved in those kind of club environments. Really, really useful.
Yeah, I did a warrior camp, which is something that was set up by by England Rugby to try and encourage girls and women to get involved in rugby. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. But I did realise pretty early on that the sort of contact element was probably a little bit frightening for me.
Not quite your thing.
Maybe not.
We've touched briefly on COVID and lockdown. How do you think that the kind of times that we're living through at the moment and what we've all experienced might impact upon the work that your office does in communities generally? And how will you look to maybe gauge success of your work post-COVID?
So it has impacted on work in the obvious ways. So all of my team are working from home. The violence reduction unit are working from home. Many of our partners who are usually out delivering on the front line are doing that in different ways, either from home or using technology, or going out and still doing it, but socially distanced. But we've definitely not lost any focus on the goal and on the aims and on trying to run our programmes successfully, because what I do know is that this time has been so difficult for so many people, whether that be financially because they've either been furloughed or made redundant, whether it be because it's affecting their mental health because they're at home cooped up and it's difficult, and I think particularly young people who've not had access to school or to the usual spaces that they trust and respect outside of school. So, for example, youth clubs and football clubs and all of the rest of it. And so I think throughout we've been really, really focused on trying to make sure that we're helping the organisations that we work with to keep in contact with those people, to keep speaking to them, working with them, trying to alleviate some of those problems. And we've done that by helping to link people up, but also by creating a COVID response fund, which was about moving some money that we would have spent later in the year on a community fund to be responsive to the crisis. And so I'm really pleased with that work. I think post-COVID, there's a few things that we need to be looking at. I think, first of all, crime has been low, very, very low. And I'm really pleased with the results that we had pre-COVID. We'd seen violent crime reduce year on year from April to March, so before we went into lockdown. But crime in general has been very low throughout COVID. And there's certain things that we really worry about, like domestic abuse in the home, things that are hidden. But on a whole, and we've taken real serious measures to try and mitigate that. But on a whole, crime has been very low. Now, there will be the inevitable rise as we start to come out of lockdown. But if you know it's going to happen, you can work to try and prevent it. And so I think preventing that massive spike is really important. I think the other thing is we've been told in no uncertain terms we're going to head for a recession. And when we have recession and deprivation, we often see crime rise. And we often see those things that are so important to people, like those physical activity programs or youth clubs, get cut. And so I'm out there speaking to government to say, don't cut these things when it's really important to people, when they need it for their recovery. And so having all of that stuff in place that supports people and helps them as we recover, I think is what success looks like. I think there's loads of different ways you can measure success, but I think helping young people particularly, but helping people into recovery without it being really detrimental to the progress they've made and to their lives is what we need to focus on.
Yeah, that resonates, I think, with a lot of the work that we're looking at the moment. You mentioned those cuts that are likely to follow when we as we hurtle into a recession. And there's been a lot in the press just this week about trying to urge the government to confirm the primary premium, which is the funding which goes into primary schools to help them develop their physical activity and sport offer. There's never been a more fundamental time that service and that funding needs to be there for them. So we wait, as we speak today anyway, we wait for confirmation that can be confirmed going forward. But yeah, those things all really resonate. Okay, well, listen, we're coming towards the end of our conversation, but I couldn't leave it without asking you what it is that you like to do to stay active and what personal benefits you feel that you get through exercise or activity.
So the way that I keep fit has changed massively during COVID because I like group exercise, so I like to go to a really heavy HIIT class and do 45 minutes and feel like I can hardly breathe at the end of it, and then I feel like I've really achieved something. And that's the way that I've exercised for years, rightly or wrongly. I know there's loads of people watching this going, oh, she should be doing more than that, she should be lifting weights, she should be doing this, but that's what I've really enjoyed. And so during this I've been trying to take that into my home and do kind of the classes online. But I've started to do yoga, which I've not done before really. I've dabbled with it, but I've started to enjoy that. And I think that gives you a little bit of escapism from kind of the constant Zooms and the fact that actually in many ways it's faster paced sitting at home because you don't move around and go to meetings and have that break in between. So I've been enjoying doing that. And also for the first time I've started running. I've never been a runner, never enjoyed it, always just felt like I'm not built for this, it's not for me. And a friend challenged me to do the Great Run Solo, which was set up by Great North Run to support NHS charities. And I completed 50 kilometres in a month the first time. And then on Monday, I'm about to start for 75 kilometres in the next 4 weeks. So I've actually been on, I would say now, 3 runs that I could say that I enjoy. The others were a bit tough, but I feel like I'm having a bit of a breakthrough. But it makes you feel so much better. And I think particularly with the sunny weather that we've been lucky to have, that time outside it's been lovely. And then kind of those little communities that form online around sport, I think are actually really positive as well because people encourage each other, and I've enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, no, I take what you mean by trying to get those breaks from all the Zoom calls and the working from home. I think we're kind of living at work rather than working from home at the moment, which is not a great balance, but great to hear that you've got ways in which you can find a release.
I think you're right, and I don't know, you're probably exactly the same as me. Usually I'm all over the region, really fast paced. 1 minute in Berwick, the next day I'm in Sunderland or Ponteland or out in the rural areas in Newcastle city centre. I can be anywhere on any given day in multiple places in a day, and so you get a little bit of time in between those to just regroup, think about the next thing, and have a moment, even though it's very fast paced. Whereas when we do this, it's really intense because usually you block yourself up, don't you? You have a 9 and a 10 and an 11 and a 12. And yeah, before you know it, you really need that time to go and have a bit of brain space and do a run or do yoga or do whatever it is that makes you feel better.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think there's many people out there who are listening to this who've probably been doing the kind of working at home and also the parenting thing as well, and full-time jobs and full-time parenting, and my absolute release has been the ability to either at the beginning of the day or the end of the day get out for a short run or a walk and just be on my own, because it sometimes feels that I'm not, even though I'm working in a room on my own, with constant calls or kids interruptions, you don't get that kind of headspace. So it's been really valuable for me, but also I've noticed it in my children who, they're both, well, one's primary age, one's nursery age, so they're still quite young, but if they've not been able to get out the house, the difference in their behaviour is unbelievable. So I think we've all needed that release in different ways.
I definitely think I don't have children, but I've got a lot of friends who've got real littlies like yourself, and I think a lot of people didn't realise quite how much energy their kids burned at school, and now that energy is in their home all the time. And I can only imagine how difficult homeschooling and so on has been for people. Although Joe Wicks has obviously been trying to keep them active, which is good.
Yeah. Joe Wicks has been great, and we've got the t-shirt and everything. But it's been tricky just to try and keep the variety there, I think, for children, particularly younger children. But well done to everybody who's managed that over the course of this last period.
Well done.
Well, listen,
Absolutely,
thank you. It's probably about all we've got time for with you today, Kim. It's been really interesting to hear more about the role in general and to get a feel for where you think the connectivity lies with sport and physical activity, given your public health approach. And we're certainly looking forward to continuing our work with your team.
Absolutely, it's been brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Lovely, and thank you all for watching.